Hey everyone, welcome to episode 189. This one is about how to live open-heartedly. And this is something I've been exploring for, I'd say pretty deeply the last 6 months or so. Just like, what is that about? What does that mean? And I think my guest, Vanessa Loder, just nails it. She came out with a book this week, actually, and I just started reading it. I'm about halfway through. I absolutely love it. It's called The Soul Solution, a guide for brilliant, overwhelmed women to quiet the noise, find their superpower, and feel satisfied. So yeah, she's going to give us like 5 signs that your body gives that you might be out of alignment. She's going to talk about following energetic breadcrumbs, doing energy shifts. The best life advice ever is to follow your heart. Well, what does that mean? We're going to dive into that. Also, this was kind of an unexpected bonus. I started asking her about some techniques that she might use to open her heart, and she took us through this impromptu, amazing waking meditation meets breathing technique. She actually is an inspirational keynote speaker and sought-after expert on women's leadership, mindfulness, stress management, and sustainable success. Her work has been featured in Forbes, HuffPost, Glamour magazine, among others. She also has a really cool TED Talk called How to Lean In Without Burning Out that has over 150,000 views. And so you're going to love her personality and style and just this concept of creating a more satisfying, fulfilling life by staying in alignment with your heart. Hello, Vanessa. Welcome to Women Seeking Wholeness. I just discovered we have a mutual friend, Amy McPhee-Alabast, who has been on my podcast, and I've been on hers, and you've been on hers. And that's really cool. You guys met through your husbands at Stanford or something, the business school?
Yes, I was in her husband's class at Stanford Business School, Eric Alabast, who's a good friend. And then I got to know Amy, and we had like a mind meld around feminine power, patriarchy, all the things.
Yes. Yeah. Well, she's just a wealth of fire and enthusiasm and knowledge around this, and just her whole diving into that with her Breaking Down Patriarchy podcast, which I love promoting her podcast because it's amazing. But so we'll have to share an episode with her so she can hear us sort of bounce some of this stuff off.
Yes.
Now you have sort of this whole history of corporate disillusionment with, if you will, with women. Mm-hmm. And so let's maybe start there. I think I was telling you before we hit record that a lot of my listeners are feeling a pull. If they are in corporate, they're or just, the working world or the professional world of some domain that they thought would bring them a measure of happiness and fulfillment, and they're just feeling some emptiness around it. They're wanting to pivot or transition into their quote unquote real work, and they're trying to just parse that out and get the courage to do that. But why don't you just share with us sort of how this landed with you and how you got into helping women with this?
Yes, I'm happy to. So I am someone who has been, I would say driven and ambitious my entire life. And I was a tomboy growing up, went to an Ivy League school, graduated top of my class. And I thought about joining the Peace Corps when I graduated from college, but I went into investment banking instead. It was like an interesting moment where I feel like my soul and my ego were like had different advice, and you can guess who I chose to follow. And so I did investment banking, which was this, really intense job, working 100+ hour weeks. And then I went on to work in private equity at JP Morgan Partners, doing these $1 billion leveraged buyouts, got my MBA from Stanford, was like checking all the boxes, like climbing the ladder, go to a good school, get good grades, get a good job, get a promotion, go to a good grad school. Mm. And I like to joke that I sort of realized when I got to the top, like, crap, wrong ladder. And it took me I had this inner feeling of lack of fulfillment and meaning and purpose in my life, like something bigger was missing. That's how it started, like this inkling that there was something more out there, but I didn't know what it was or how to access it. I just could feel in my bones I was meant for something more. And I would think things like, well, I like soccer, but I don't want to be a soccer coach. Like I could not imagine how to turn my passions into a career. And, it's sort of like I'd follow this formula for success in life. And then I got to the end of it, and it didn't lead to all the happiness and fulfillment I thought it would. So that led to a bit of I don't know if a breakdown is the right word, but that's what really put me on the seeker's path.
So were you married with kids during this whole time, or?
Very good question. I was not yet married, I was with my now husband, but we were not yet even engaged, I think, when I started this journey. And I talk about this in my book a little bit, but he actually nudged me on the whole path because I had a fear of getting married after having seen my own parents divorce. And he had wanted to get engaged after we graduated from business school. And I was like, oh, let me live with you for a year. And then the clock was like ticking down on that year. And I was no closer to feeling ready to be engaged. And I had this real reckoning with myself where I thought, is this about him? No, he's wonderful. Is this about us? No, I think our relationship is pretty good. This is my fear from like my childhood stuff. And I'm not willing to let that fear get in the way of this relationship. And so I hired actually a coach to work with me on my fear of marriage. And that's what actually got me on the path of self-discovery and starting to question, what does fear feel like in my body? What does it mean to move through it? What are the stories and beliefs I have about marriage? And kind of do some of that deeper inner work. Yeah. So
I love that you're talking about this, because I've seen both. I've seen women come from family cultures where they were encouraged to get married right away and sort of delay their own careers or, start having whatever. That was very much my entrainment. Not necessarily my parents going Notre Dame, because my parents were great with, do your thing and be you. But there was definitely through religious programming and encouraging of almost a discouragement of a career. So even if I did have commitment issues, I still, and it's interesting because Jeff and I got married. He was 26, he was 27, I was 26, and that was considered old in our culture.
Right.
We were the last of our friends to get married. So anyway, I just wanted to ask that.
No, it's very interesting. Well, it's interesting you say that, all of that, because Amy Alabest and I, when we've chatted, have said that we feel like we have this common thread in our stories, but it's like we came from completely different sides of the spectrum, where I was like, it's almost like I was trying to beat patriarchy at its own game. I was like, I'm going to be tough and masculine. I'm going to dominate the corporate world and da, da, da. And then I realized this is not working out so well for me. And she felt like she came at it from a very different angle of, okay, I'll listen to the patriarchy. I don't know if she would even say, well, you don't.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. You don't dare, I told you to go ahead and then I start talking.
It's okay. We're just so excited. You go.
No, I was just going to say, you don't dare not acquiesce to the patriarchy. It's not even, unless you're really warrior and rebellious and whatever, and those people get ostracized very quickly. But for me, it was this slow churn of this doesn't feel good in my body, but who am I to, must be me. And, the stuff that they're saying and these doctrines and these things, I didn't dare not obey it. So anyway, go back to what you were saying.
Yeah. So basically, I tried to beat the patriarchy. It was like I followed those rules to play that game. And then I realized this isn't a game I want to win, first of all. And second of all, even winning this game is asking me to sacrifice so much of my authenticity and who I really am that it feels terrible, even if I quote unquote win. So anyway, my husband, sweet man that he is, set me on the path of personal development and awakening. And I worked with this coach through the whole year of our engagement, learned how to feel fear in my body and move through it, and talk through my childhood stuff. And then we got married. We went on this incredible honeymoon. We came back and I called up that same coach and said, well, I'm now happily married. Thanks for that. And now my career, I just don't love it. I don't know why. It's intellectually stimulating, but I feel like there's more out there for me and I don't know what that is. And that led to this whole other period of soul searching. And I started getting really into neuroscience behind behavior change, mindfulness. I actually even read a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, which is all about past lives.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So I ended up training with Brian Weiss and getting certified in hypnosis and past life regression healing. I just went off the deep end and all the woo woo and the personal development stuff. Yeah. My husband was like, are you just going to be
He's like, what did I just do? Did I just open Pandora's box?
He's like, are you going to be a self-help junkie who just goes on retreats all the time? What happened? But then I ended up changing so much that I realized what I wanted to do was bring these tools to other people, and particularly to women. and to people in the business world. So I quit my job in finance, and we can go into more about that whole piece, and then founded my own business, as kind of like a Stanford MBA spiritual teacher of sorts. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years.
Super cool, eclectic path. I find it interesting as I was listening to you talk that it wasn't until you like learned how to get in your body that all of these shifts were happening. You were able to heal your reticence to get married. And then you kind of decided, oh, well, then I'm feeling that. And I'm also now feeling this about my career path.
Yeah.
To be totally honest, my embodied hesitancy to accept a lot of the patriarchal things that were presented to me were not even identified till I was in my 40s. And I actually learned how to get in my body through taking a yoga teacher training with my daughter, with a group of other women, not to become a yoga teacher, but just to learn it with my daughter because she wants to be a yoga teacher. And so I finally learned how to get in my body, and everything blew up because I realized I'd been sort of shelving or stuffing or not honoring or seeing or noticing or validating some of the tension I was holding in my body for that fear of not being obedient.
Wow. That's massive. Yeah. I mean, I've really found the body as one of the main portals into healing, aligning with our soul, living our truth in the world. I mean, it's so, the body, it's one of the signs in the book that we were talking about, like the 5 signs that you're out of alignment. One of them is the body, because the body really never lies, and so oftentimes when you feel like a tightness or a constriction in your body, when you think about a certain obligation, like you offered to volunteer on some task force at work or at your kid's school, but it just feels like tight and heavy in your body. And your mind might say, but I care about this cause, but the body, it's a no, and you can feel into that. And so, for me, it was like walking on the beach in Crissy Field in downtown, or not downtown, but in San Francisco, pondering like my unfulfilling career and all these things, where I had this thought, because I was going to start a baby products business when I was originally going to leave my finance job. And I was being very Stanford MBA about it. So I had done all this research. I did a consumer survey. I put together a slide presentation. I was going to raise venture capital so I could pay myself a salary right away. And then I sat with it and I had this moment where I realized, what am I doing? I don't give a crap about baby products. Like, I'm not passionate about baby products at all. I didn't even yet have a child. And I realized I'm just pursuing this business idea because I think it's a good business idea. It would make money, but not because my heart or my soul or my body feels good when I think about it. And so when I was walking along the beach, I had this kind of insight come through me, which for me happens a lot when I'm moving my body in nature. And I think that's true for a lot of people.
Sure.
You tune into the wisdom of your soul. But this thought kind of came through me, which was, oh my gosh, my entire life, I have been following my ego, my mind, and my wallet, and not my heart and my body and my soul and my intuition. And maybe that's why I'm so unfulfilled. And so I ended up making a really fierce commitment to quit my job with nothing planned and give myself 6 months. And I had to give myself 6 months to make it feel safe. And I said, I'll give myself 6 months. All I'm going to do is follow my heart and my intuition and like the signals of my body for 6 months with the clear intention of finding work I love. And if I haven't found work that I'm more interested in at the end of the 6 months, I can always go back to a traditional job. And I've never gone back to a traditional job.
Isn't that interesting when you follow your heart? Like, I know it sounds trite. So let's walk people through that. I mean, it doesn't sound trite. It resonates with me. But some people are like, oh, follow your heart. What the heck? What is, So I love breaking things down kind of logically, even though there's some things you're like clapping. Yay, me too. So let's just say, because I do have a lot of listeners who are kind of in that in-between space.
Yes.
And they're asking, show me, and they know what things light them up to some degree, but there's also this just things undiscovered or, resources that haven't met them yet because they're not clear. And I always say it's because they're coming in and out of their heart and they're trying to make all these mental constructs around what they think they should do or what, the programming. So what does that mean to you for someone to follow their heart?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I love breaking things down. So that's why I asked that question, because I'm the same way where it's like, okay, what are the tangible and tactical steps I can take to follow my heart? There's so many pieces. When I was in that in-between place, the hallway, there's a beautiful quote from this woman, Ronnie, I think I'll get her name to you for the show notes. She was a recovering breast cancer survivor who said, they say when one door closes, another opens, but the hallways are a bitch.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Hopefully the language doesn't offend people.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
Headphones if you have children in the car. But anyway, so when you're in the hallway and you're trying to find the next door, it's so tempting sometimes to just jump through the next door you see because you want the safety and the security of that. Or even if you have the confidence and the resolve to stay in the hallway, your family members and friends are all going, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? Do you know what you're going to do? Because of their discomfort with being in the hallway and their fear, and they project that onto you. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I think just naming that it feels scary and vulnerable to trust your heart and to be patient with your own unfolding when you're in the hallway, just honoring that truth is a good place to start. And then just starting really small with listening to what I call your soul whispers and your energetic breadcrumbs, which are those moments when you feel really alive and energized. So what you can do right away is you can journal every night for a week or two, do what I call like an energy audit of when was I in a state of flow today? What brought me energy today? What activities did I do where I had more energy at the end of it than I did at the beginning? Or what did I have a conversation or an interaction with a person where I had more energy at the end than in the beginning? And really peel back the layers. Like what specifically was so heart-opening or energizing about that interaction? Was it the person? Was it the topic you were talking about with them? Was it that you felt like you gave them like some inspiration to move forward on their path? What are the little
like something that just kind of sparked, like created a resonance in you or just sort of lit you up?
Yeah. So noticing those moments and like tracking them. And then also, it's really important to take time and space alone to start to tune into your heart and the whispers of your soul, because there is so much noise in our culture, in society, especially if you're a woman. You are conditioned to be a people pleaser and to follow the rules and be a good girl and do what you should do. And so it's really hard to even identify what you want, what your desires and pleasures are.
And also like the heart space has been like diminished. Like it's been ridiculed and mocked and
devalued.
The whole intuitive process is devalued to such an extent that we second guess ourselves because it's not apropos.
Yeah, completely. We often do second guess ourselves when we get those little nudges and inklings. And then the other thing is when you get them, it's really important to take action on them, because then that's what validates. You get a little inkling and you take action on it, however small, and then you feel really good. And then it kind of strengthens your resolve for next time or for the bigger thing, because you go, oh yeah, but I listened and trusted, like my body felt really constricted and I said no to that volunteer opportunity because my heart it didn't feel like a yes. And I got all that energy back. So I'm going to do that again. That worked for me. You learn by doing with listening to the heart.
That reminds me of a quote. I think it's by Jim Rohn. Clarity comes with engagement. So when we're trying to think through something, we get blocked, we get stuck because we're not in movement. But as we start to engage, like you said, with those things that light us up or whatever, those energetic breadcrumbs, when we start to engage with them, then we get more and more clarity on the next right step.
Yes, this is true. And I also think having like an intention or a commitment statement, I outline how to write a commitment statement in the book, but something that is a process where you're saying every morning, like, okay, I commit to following my heart and trusting my heart and receiving its guidance today. Whatever, it can be something as simple as that. Or I commit to listening to and trusting my heart to find work that I love, and then you set that as an intention. So you say it every morning when you wake up and every night before you go to bed. And it just reminds your subconscious mind to pay attention to those little inklings and whispers throughout the day, because you've sort of planted the kernel in your own mind. And then you'll have some serendipitous encounter. Someone will mention the name of a book, or you'll find a class online that you're interested in, and you'll go, oh, I want to listen to that. And you'll be more more open to receive
Yes.
guidance.
Yeah. And open-heartedness to me, like part of it involves like breath. And this is just me personally, like there's a lot of locks. If you think of the heart as just having all these little doors that are locked. You mentioned a hallway, so I'm just going to go there.
Yeah.
Because it like you have to find the pathways to those doors, which means being just really aware. But then opening your heart is really hard, especially if you have trauma, especially if you've got some scars there, some brokenheartedness. So how do you kind of circumvent or navigate through that space when you really want your heart to be open and you really want to be heart led?
Yes.
And you find that the deeper you go, and this is just some of the feedback I get from people I've worked with, like the deeper that you go in to try to open, the more that you uncover that needs to be released and cleared and healed.
Yeah. Let me just tell you, I've been on this path for 10 years. And in the last year, I've uncovered so much heart trauma that I've been healing.
It's
and
so
like,
true. Just last week, I was interviewing somebody about a topic that I was like, oh, shoot, this is bringing stuff up. And literally after that interview, I was on my bathroom floor with my husband working through it. But it was needful. It was just, it's all about timing, right? Yes. The readiness and allowing that readiness to unfold when it needs to.
Yeah. Yeah. I've literally felt like fissures, like cracks in my heart in the last few months, and like the dark energy pouring out. And I've done visualizations of like new energy coming in. I've felt literal pain in my heart. And it's been hard. And you know, ever the overachiever that I am, I like to I'm like, can I go through this a little faster, please?
I can figure this out, and this isn't going to get me down. Yeah, I know. Me too.
So, you know, sometimes it is a process and you have to be patient with your own healing and just really tender with your heart. And it's so counter to our culture where it's like, push through, drive through, like ignore the pain. And so I think, giving yourself this permission and the space to feel it, to grieve, to tend to your heart. I'm a big fan of inner child work, huge fan. Have a script.
And it's also really scary. Like,
it's really scary.
You have to have some kind of readiness around or skill set around holding space for yourself before you're ready to really get into like I was talking with those doors, like, you know, the door that I had to open, you know, after I finished that interview last week was like, what is that saying? The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Yes. And it was like, here I am, like I've been teaching about this topic but I wasn't ready to really do the inner child of the scared little girl, which, you know, has informed so many of the decisions that I've made and some of the sabotaging behaviors that I've done, that I wasn't really ready to really look at that until very, very recently. So interesting.
Yeah, it is a journey of like peeling back more and more layers. And so I'm a big fan of the inner child work. I'm a fan of Richard Schwartz and the parts work. I'm also trained in a version of that through NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. They have a parts tool, but he has a great, there's a podcast interview with him and Tammy Simon on Insights on the Edge that explains the parts work. It's great. And he has a book, you can read about it if you want to dig deeper, but working with your parts is a great way to do some of that healing. And then I lead a lot of guided meditations and visualizations for others and for myself around healing the heart. You know, I did one the other week where we were, and I mean, everyone, if they want to just listeners, you can just close your eyes briefly and tune into your heart. And what we did was we took a couple breaths into the heart center. Oh yeah, let me do this first. This is a great way. If you don't mind, I'm just diving right in.
Let's do it.
You're into the embodiment. So, for super beginning heart healing work, what I recommend is just starting to breathe into your heart. So if you want to just allow your eyes to gently close, and I like to place one or both hands on my heart center and just start to breathe into your heart space. And if you'd like, you can visualize or imagine there's like a little white pilot light in the middle of your heart. And with each inhale, it gets bigger and brighter. Until your whole heart is filled with this beautiful white light. And then Kelly McGonigal, who's a PhD who teaches at Stanford, has this funny technique that really can work. where you visualize or imagine your nostrils on the outside of your heart to help you breathe straight into your heart center.
Cool.
So it's very weird and different. When I first tried it, I thought, what? But just try it on for a moment and just notice if you feel like you're able to really connect more with a sense of the breath going straight into the heart center. And then this is my favorite add-on to that, with your eyes still closed. I was teaching a live class when one of the women said, you know, Vanessa, I imagined an animal nose on my heart instead of my own nostrils. So then I started doing that. So it's really fun. It's so weird and crazy.
Cool. I love that.
Imagine like, whether it's a dog nose or a bear nose or whatever comes up for you, but just imagine that on your heart for a moment and breathe through that. And it brings you into this real energy of playfulness, which is very, very healing for the heart center. And the other thing I've noticed is I often am only breathing into the front of my heart. So then I started imagining the animal nose on the back of my heart, and on the left and right sides of my heart, and just noticing how that feels. So breathing in 360 degrees into the heart center. And then take a moment and just visualize or imagine that there's like a piece of ice or a wall of ice somewhere in your heart. And this represents some hardening that you created at some point in your life to keep yourself safe. And this is the piece you're ready to let go of today. So just take a moment and visualize or imagine that as you breathe into your heart center, that one block of ice or that wall, it just starts to melt. I'm ready to let go of this. I release this hardening now. I say yes to boundless love. I say yes to opening my heart just 2% more. And you might see the whole thing melting, or maybe just a little portion of it is ready to melt today. And just visualizing or imagining that you're opening your heart, maybe just 2% more. And recognizing that as you do, more love will flow in you, as you, and through you. So I say yes to more love, more joy, more laughter, more happiness in my life.
Yay!
Ready to slide your eyes open. I was not planning on doing that, but
no, I'm glad. I'm like, go for it. So good.
And then I had my little bell nearby. I was like, I'm just going to go right into it.
I actually have one back there too. And I was like, oh. So fun fact, maybe the woman who taught you about the nostrils on the outside of the heart knows this science, but you have you have smell receptors all over your whole entire body. And they're in the highest concentration actually in your heart, or on the surface of your heart. So those smell receptors, the cell receptors that are open to receive.
Smell receptors.
Smell. If I tell people, if you really want to activate your heart, smell some things. I'm a huge fan of essential oils. I've had a whole path with teaching about it for the last 10 years. And it's really fascinating that when you I actually have my diffuser going right now. So when I was like breathing in the peppermint that I've got diffusing, and then I was picturing my dog's nose, but after you said, I did picture my own nose, but then I was like, oh, my dog is more fun. So I'm going to play with that. So, but yeah, you do. You have a really high concentration of smell receptors on the surface of your heart.
I didn't know that. That's super cool. That makes a lot of sense.
So there's also, are you familiar with the work of Sarah Blondin? She teaches about heart-mindedness.
I love her because a lot of my meditations are on Insight Timer, the app, and she has a ton of great meditations on that. Yeah.
So I would encourage people to get her Audible book. I think it's called Heart Minded. And she has some beautiful meditations on there too, and just her voice and everything. That you were reminding me of her a little bit. So I was like,
that's a high compliment. I take that. She's beautiful. She's like a poet healer. I mean,
brilliant. Yeah. So let's go back to the 5 major signs that you're out of alignment. The first thing that you talked about was something feels off with the body, right? The body doesn't lie. I learned that in my yoga teacher training as well. I was like, that was one of the first times like, oh, really? I can trust my body. That was like a huge revelation. That was just like, I thought my body was a vehicle of temptation. I thought my body was easily swayed by Satan. So trusting the body.
Wow. That's so powerful. Like reclaiming your body and your wisdom, the wisdom that your body holds. I mean, that's one of the ways we take our power back, is reclaiming the wisdom of our bodies. And I think it's one of the ways that we can get lost in the current, patriarchal system is we've been taught to override the wisdom of our bodies or devalue it. And so, often in the beginning for a lot of women, this can look like chronic pain, unexplainable migraines, hypertension, repeated illness, or insomnia. Those are all signs from your body that something is out of alignment in your life. Something that you might want to just start getting curious about.
So say those again. So insomnia.
Insomnia, chronic pain, migraines, like unexplainable migraines. I can't tell you how many clients I've had where this one woman, it's crazy, true story. She said, Vanessa, I had debilitating back pain. I was miserable. She was miserable at her job, had, I think, 2 or 3 kids. And then she went to volunteer at her child's school and the back pain completely went away. And she was like in her zone of genius, doing what she loved, showing kids this stuff.
I think that would create a back pain to be.
I know, that's what I was like, but she was, I can't remember, she was teaching an art class. Like it was something that she was very passionate about. And then she left the kids' school, the back pain came back. And then she went back to teach again, like a few weeks later. And again, it was like miraculous. Just for that period of time, the back pain went away. So it's, the signals can be so obvious in hindsight, but when we're in it, we're so used to pushing through the pain and the discomfort and just like dealing with it and putting up with it, that we don't take it as a sign, as our body speaking directly to us that something is not okay here.
So powerful. Yeah. To me, migraines and ulcers are kind of in the same family of like trying to either digest something difficult or trying to overthink. And if you think about it, the heart is right in the middle of us. There's more neural pathways that run from the heart to the head than the other way around. So our heart is always trying to communicate with parts of us, especially the logic brain. I know that, science hasn't quite got the spirituality, like they're not on the same page or team right now. I think that's shifting. Hopefully soon it'll be more integrated, but.
Yeah. And and I can send you some more information after this, but there's been really cool studies on how far our heart goes outside our body, on like disasters elsewhere and how people feel that in their heart. There's very cool research with the heart. But so your body is a great thing to pay attention to. And if it feels constricted, tense, or heavy, that might be because something's a no for you. Versus when you feel open and expanded or like little champagne bubblies inside, that might be your body telling you that something's a yes. So that's one sign. The second, which by the way, I just have to say, I'm wanting to acknowledge for the people who are listening to this and didn't expect me to go into a meditation, like, sorry if you were driving a car, because I was just having a moment imagining someone like driving a car and then they're imagining like an animal nose on their heart while they're driving. So anyway.
It's all good. I've done waking meditations like where that happens, where I'll be listening to a podcast or some recording, or even Sarah Blondin stuff, where she'll just launch right into a meditation. I'm like, oh shoot, I'm driving. But then I just roll with it. Like, I'm not closing my eyes, but
hopefully you roll with it and you're just breathing through your animal nose while on a walk or whatever. Anyway, body never lies, number 1. Number 2, the second sign is what I call mental spinning, which is if you find yourself in your head, confused, just arguing with yourself, trying to justify something or trying to talk yourself into something. It might be because you actually don't want to do that thing or you don't feel good about it. But you're stuck over analyzing it, trying to justify it. And so if you feel kind of mental spinning or paralyzed, like analysis paralysis, that can also be a sign of misalignment with your deeper truth. And the thing that I've noticed that surprised me when I realized it is whenever I'm struggling to make a decision or something's a maybe, it's actually usually because it's a no. And I don't want to admit it to myself.
Even something described about 5 years of my life of me dragging my heels. Yeah. And it affects your health straight up.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the things I have not been bold enough to fully live into myself, but it's like on my goal list is, what if I only said yes to the things for my work that were like a hell yes? And anything that's like a maybe or that I'm waffling on is a no. It's just a no. You know, because I even noticed something, for example, I was debating taking the kids on a road trip to visit my sister one weekend, and I just could not. I was like spinning, you know, could not decide. And I realized, no, it's a no. You got to take it off the table if you're spinning. And why it was so hard and tricky to understand is because it was something that's normally a yes, but it was a no right then. Like the timing just wasn't right. Yeah. I was exhausted.
It's not now. Like
not now. Yeah.
And so some people will get so unequivocal, like, okay, because I got a no on it, then it's a no forever. No, it was just a no then. And if you're not open, then you'll miss the gem there, which is like just pivot.
Right. For now. And that's the crazy thing is sometimes when I've honored my no, the thing that was a no comes back as a yes a lot sooner than I thought it would, you know? So it's really, there's this whole process that I outline in The Soul Solution is about having that moment to moment awareness and alignment with yourself in the present moment. Like, how do I feel right now? And that's a tricky thing to cultivate when we're not taught to live that way.
Sure.
So yeah, the mental spinning is a good one to help you notice when you're in that. And the third sign is burnout. That one's a little more obvious, I think, for people. Like when you hit a wall of exhaustion and overwhelm, it's often because you're actually being called to make a change. And, you know, you can try to push through and blame others or blame yourself. A lot of women do that. Like, why can't I do it all? What's wrong?
That's honestly our go-to for everything. The default. Yeah. The default for women.
So, you know, and the thing I think it's very important to say, and especially as an author of like what's technically a self-help book, I think a lot of that genre as women, it can almost cause us to like blame ourselves more and like we need to fix ourselves more. And so it's important to name the social, political, and cultural circumstances, you know, that our patriarchal culture sets up these unattainable ideals of beauty, success, romance, parenting. And so we've been taught to give to everyone else and not to ourselves. And, you know, we're kind of like culturally conditioned to burn out. And so it's really important to name that context and not blame yourself and also try not to go into like a victim villain, like, well, patriarchy's to blame. It's more about, you know, okay, this is the situation that we're in. And do I want to choose to continue living in that reality, or do I want to choose a different one?
Yeah, that word burnout is a spin too, because when we were talking earlier about like, you know, if you want to infiltrate the matrix, if you really want sustainable change, it isn't about matching their energy, that dysfunctional energy of control and oppression and anger and everything. Although there is sacred rage, which we talked about before we started recording, that's justifiable. But like you can't, that's not how you're going to revolutionize the next level of awareness and healing planetary wide, or even in your own body, is to match how it was created.
Yeah, totally.
You know, it's like antithetical to it actually healing.
Yes. And that was what I tried to do.
I know I was in a burn it down phase for a long time, and that does burn you out. It doesn't work. Yeah. And it burns the bridges.
It does. Yeah, it really does. And I know one of the things I was writing recently in an article was like, we need more women leaders, but we don't need more women leaders who are trying to act like men and who are like exhausting themselves in the process.
Sure.
And giving to everyone but themselves. Cause it just doesn't work. So yes. And that's enough on burnout. And then the fourth step is procrastination, the fourth sign, which this one's interesting because I used to sometimes worry, well, am I just lazy or unmotivated or what's my problem? But oftentimes when I'm really struggling to feel inspired to take action on something, it's because it's actually not aligned for me. And so it's important to just notice how much our culture has become obsessed with productivity and busy as a badge of honor, and how maybe that's not really what it's all about. Like maybe it's not about optimizing productivity. Maybe it's about savoring your life more.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
That's one. And then the last one is the hungry ghost, which is like, that comes from this Buddhist concept. It's being driven by this animalistic need of like creating more and more and more. It's sort of like that empty hole inside of us that can't be filled no matter how much stuff we accumulate, whether that's outside accolades or material things. And so if you're noticing that you have that hungry ghost going, you have that feeling where your accomplishments don't fill that deeper ache inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually your soul urging you to wake up, that there's something deeper and more true available to you than all the surface level or external things you're trying to grab onto to feel a sense of worthiness.
Yeah, checking the checklist and thinking when all the checklists is complete, then I'll feel a certain way, which is only like this insatiable like need to keep doing the checklist. And it's like the hamster wheel of perfectionism.
Yes.
Okay, so say
when you're on that.
Okay, so let's recap the 5 again and just name them. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Okay. So the body never lies. Mental spinning, confused, arguing with yourself, trying to justify. If it's a maybe, it's probably a no. Burnout is number 3. Procrastination, number 4, and the hungry ghost, something is missing.
Ooh, those are all so powerful. Okay, Vanessa, where can people find your book? It's called The Soul Solution, a guide for brilliant, overwhelmed women to quiet the noise, find their superpower, and finally feel satisfied. Ooh, yes. That's so juicy and yummy.
They can find it on my website, Vanessa Loder, LODER.com/soul-solution, SOUL-solution. And then I have all the links of all the stores, so you can support independent bookstores or Amazon or Barnes & Noble. You can get it at all those places. But if you buy it through my website, I have a link where you can get a ton of free guided meditations, visualizations, videos, and like PDF downloads, because I really want to give people a lot of tools to support them in incorporating and embodying all these practices in your daily life. So if you want all the free good stuff, that's where I would recommend.
Oh, perfect. Well, we'll have that in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time. I've really loved bouncing all this off you. It's been awesome. I love your energy.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's been a joy.
Hey, just remember, when you get those little nudges and little inklings, when you get those, it's really important to take action on them, even though they may not make sense to your mind brain. Don't let your ego take over when your body is trying to send you validating messages. Those little nudges and inklings, when you take action on them, however small, you start to feel good. And it strengthens your resolve and your confidence for the next time for those bigger things. Because you go, yeah, all right, I listened, I trusted, and your body starts to feel less heavy, less constricted. It starts to feel more expansive and lighter. The body never lies. The body is your living receptacle of truth. Thanks again to Vanessa, and remember to go check out and buy her new book, The Soul Solution. It's brilliant. I have it. Lots of great, tangible, practical tips and tricks and hacks and more expanded exercises too, to be able to just tap into that soul voice and feel like you're really connecting in and making the best and highest decisions for your life. Have a beautiful week. We'll talk to you next time on Women Seeking Wholeness.